Hello, everybody, and welcome to Align Farm's first regenerative chat. Joined today by Rhys and Kiri, and we are going to talk about our learnings over the past a bit over a month. We're a little late with the first one. We had some technical difficulties last month, so we're trying again. We'll start off with the learnings from the whole season, really, at this point. Rhys, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think the key bit that I'm still trying to get my head around and learn is just like the variability of the pasture species, and like it's really intriguing. Like, you know, we started in one camp and now we're in another camp, but you know, some of our, you know, last year we agreed that diverse mix is terrible, and this year it's really great. And then like one paddock that was really great last year is not quite performing as well this year. So like it's just an absolute treasure trove of learnings around that multi-species. But you know, we've obviously had a bit of heat in the last 2 weeks, and like, you know, it's really taken off those diverse paddocks. So certainly struggled a wee bit with the straight ryegrass clover paddocks. The ones with diversity have performed better. So probably my key learning is, yeah, you can't really make assumptions, or you know, it's too early to really gauge performance because it's so variable. Like paddock 1, 4 months ago I was ready to spray the thing out. Now I'm kind of like, geez, it's looking awesome. So my learning is I don't know a lot. Yeah.
I guess that's the joys of diversity, is that it's different every month and depending on conditions. Kiri, how about you?
We've had many learnings this season. Obviously, we had calving thrown in the mix this year, which was our first time really trialing it with that. Having to split the herds, split the milk, just like there was quite a bit for the team to wrap their head around. But we've finally got through it. Obviously, calving most of the herds probably helped. Learning regarding diverse mixes, because we've been doing this for nearly 2 years. It's forever changing, and it obviously changes every time we graze it as well. So the key learning I've learned this season with having so far with having 4 paddocks still in ryegrass, but on the regen side, is that without the root structure in the ground from the diverse species, there's not a very good housing for just applying a fish EM mix. We learned that pretty quick when we put it on. It pretty much just watered the grass. So that we learned that. The other way we knew that is because I had 2 ryegrass clover paddocks side by side, and one I accidentally put on 75 kilos of ammo. And yeah, the difference was huge, considering the paddock 6 that got the fish mix was grazed 7 days earlier than paddock 5. And paddock 5 was probably the 6th to the 7th paddock on the first round. And I grazed the second paddock on the second round. So yes, it definitely grew a lot of feed, but was a little bit hard, I guess you could say, to be like, let's not put it on everything. But that's not what we're trying to achieve. So definitely looked at other things, and we're going to try pig manure this year. What we did do is we did empty our effluent pond onto some diverse paddocks, and that's made a huge difference. So I think this year we'll do the pig manure, and then going forward, the ryegrass paddocks or any of the paddocks that are lacking things, we'll probably just empty our effluent pond onto those, because it's all in-house.
I guess can't rely too heavily on the soil biology when we haven't gone through the process of stimulating it with the diverse cover crop. All right, maybe we can touch on the highlight of the season so far. To start with you, Rhys.
Yeah, I think probably two highlights for me. One is just like breaking the back of calving, to be fair. Like, it got pretty tough there for a while. So it's good to see the team smiling again. And then secondly, just, I touched on elaborating the learnings is, when the sun comes out and you drive down that race and it's looking good, it really looks good. So, yeah, I was on the farm over the weekend, and the sun was out, and you could see some of those diverse paddocks starting to come through. Like see the chicory and the plantain coming through. It just, I guess it's, those little wins are quite big in the grand scheme of things to see it kind of doing what it should be doing. So the counter of that is a disappointment, but we'll get to that today. But certainly really, really impressed with how it's going at the moment.
Yeah, great. And how about you, Kiri?
The highlight for me and the team was reaching the 27th with our first round. When we were looking at, like, say, the 1st of September, when we made the 27th was going to be our goal, it felt like 10 months away. So each day we were like, are we going to make it? And with a bit of feed, we were able to do that with a bit of supplement. But yeah, we only just scraped in. But it was good to make it because it definitely made a difference. The weather slowly changed. We got some warmer days. Everything started to grow. So that was really good. I think last season we noticed that the second round was a lot harder for our diverse paddocks. I'm potentially thinking it's going to be different this time. I was prepared that my second round was going to be harder, so I think that's why it was a wee bit daunting. Even though making the 27th, I was expecting to hit the second round really hard, and it would be like last season. But so far, so good. If we can keep them soil temperature up and get a bit of rain in here and there, should be fine.
Good to hear.
You're lucky we're talking on the 12th of October and not the 1st of September.
Things change quickly in farming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rhys, you can get to those disappointments now. What is bringing you down?
Yeah. Probably just like shoulder growth was just diabolical. And to be fair, both sides weren't great, but man, yeah, we just really struggle with some of that diversity growth over the shoulders. So we certainly come in with not enough cover. Like that was pretty evident. And I think, the inner capitalist in us probably just milked a bit hard last year and just hoped that it would be okay. But that didn't work that well for us. So yeah, I think we're going to have to push our round length out in like March and get up to a 2,500 cover and just hold it from there and try and come into the new season with a, like dry off at 2,400 maybe and try and come in at 26, 27. Would allow, the team to be able to fully feed the cows through that first round and then obviously have, leave higher residuals and then come into higher pre-graze covers in their second round. So yeah, shoulder growth is disappointing. We haven't got that right. And then probably for me, just I'm just disappointed in myself, to be fair, that we overlooked the cover thing coming in. Like that's had an effect to the trial. We've had to put more supplement in on both sides of the farm, to be fair. So that's slightly frustrating because we spent a year setting this thing up, and I think the $8 payout got a bit too lucrative. But long story short, we've learned from it, and that's probably been my key disappointment. And it was hard to see the team. They come out of the dry season, then they hit with, 2 dry herds, 2 springer mobs, 2 herds, 2 penicillin mobs, and just double all the work. And that was tough to watch and see and observe. And there was nothing really you could do. Like, you could try and help, but, you just got in the way. So that was hard. I wouldn't say it was disappointing. It was just hard. But yeah, shoulder growth is my probably key disappointment of this thing to date. We've got to get better at that. We know it performs really well when the sun's out. But when the sun hides away, we need to find a way to and maybe pig manure in late lactation, just to try and push some nitrogen through the winter. Maybe, who knows? Higher covers will help. So that's my disappointment.
What did we dry off that last season, just for context?
I think it was we tried to dry with about 2150, I think, on the regen side, and about 2000 on the conventional. But we only come back to about that. To be fair, like
we had no growth in the winter.
Yeah, we had that flooding that didn't help. Like 100 hectares of the farm was underwater for 5-6 days. So I think that just it was just waterlogged, and obviously on the rocks, we call it effectively, we've got rocks and really heavy soil. The rocks were completely flooded, so they were saturated. Then the heavy soil got 300 mil of rain on them, so they were saturated too. So a bit of damage, more than what we'd normally do, just on the back of it. It was just so waterlogged, so that's had an effect on the second round. But I think we need to be drying off like 2400 on the regen side.
Yeah. And how about you, Kiri? What was your disappointment?
I don't know if I really had disappointments. I think I had many, but I think it was more. It was just hard. I think dairy farming overall, for all farmers, this calving has been one of the hardest that we know of. Everyone has struggled, so I think that was nice to know that everyone was struggling.
Some solidarity.
But yeah, having the multiple herds, having to explain to the team that we can't do this or that or whatever, definitely was extremely challenging. In the end, I just said to them, come up with a way that we can make this better, that we're not in the cow shed all the time or things like that. And they come up with some ideas, and most of them we did. So yeah, just kind of gave them a bit more control in that sense, because I could see they were getting frustrated. But other than that, the disappointment, I think, because like I said before, we've been doing it for 2 years. If I can get the same growth as what I got from the regen come like December, when we get a pinch and feed again, then I'll be quite happy. I believe we can do it if we can cut silage and things like that. So I don't think I'm disappointed as such in the diverse yet. It's you kind of, after dealing with it so long now, I feel like you learn to trust that it will just sort itself out. So yeah, no, I'm not overly disappointed. We've just had a hard few months, pretty much.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I guess with the coming month, what are you expecting? What are your plans?
Are you going, Rhys?
Oh, I can go if you like. From what we've got to try and get that cover up. So we identified a bit of a challenge with the ryegrass clover paddock. So Kiri touched on it. We've got the pig manure on farm now, so we're going to get that on to try and give it a bit of boost of end to get us through the next kind of 4 to 5 months, without using synthetic end. So that'll be good to see that going on over the next month. I'd like to get another one of our ryegrass paddocks into diversity and try and get the soil biology up and running. So it's a bit of a trade-off. We need to lift covers, we need to maximise milk production, we need to conserve silage, and we need to regrass the paddock. So it's around not setting Kiri up for failure, but making sure that we don't sit back in January and going, shit, I wish we regrass that paddock, So I guess we just need to make sure that we're pushing all 4 buttons, not just 3 of them. So I would like to see another paddock get regrassed into diversity, just to keep that ball rolling. And so that's probably where I'm sitting. And mating's just around the corner. I've got the collars on, so I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to go. So I think that's probably my big ones is see if we can nail all 4 of those lifting covers, maximising milk production and mating performance, conserving some silage if we can, and also regrassing a paddock into diversity. That'd be, if I could tick all those 4 boxes, and still be married, I'd be pretty happy. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
We've got a few more months to go. Yeah, obviously mating, it's all up to the collars this year, so that has been another, who knows where this is going to go, situation. I feel like I should be pro at this by the end of this. So we've got that. the plan is to cut silage. I really, really want to have enough silage for both herds if we were to go into a similar season as what we have just been in. So definitely keen to do that. If you had asked me a month ago to spray out a paddock, I would have said no way. One, for the shortage of feed at the time, and two, because I knew ryegrass was going to be forgiving. But now, after seeing how it hasn't really handled the fish or what we've been applying to it, it makes me want to get it into diverse more. So I am quite keen to regrass one of the paddocks that needs something done to it. And I believe that we can, with our stocking rate and with the growth that's going to come, I believe that we'll be able to do it. So yeah, I would say we'll be able to do both.
Sounds positive then. Looking good for you, Rhys.
Got it sorted. That's why I went first.
Set the stage. Great. So yeah, we'll move on to just some general farm discussions about what else has been happening. So maybe we can start with the animal health side of things, and maybe we can touch on the milk during that discussion as well, what we're seeing with the milk.
Yeah.
So yeah, has there been any glaring animal health differences? I think it's probably a bit early to be seeing anything too drastic.
No, the only thing is that my regen herd has a slightly better condition than overall condition than the conventional side, and coats are starting to change a little bit quicker than the conventional side. So that's the only thing I am noticing. We are physically noticing, the team is noticing. Cow conditions sitting at 4.5, 4.4, 4.5. So it's actually really good. I'm really happy to go with that into mating.
Is that for both herds or just the regen one?
We haven't split
the
it out.
average for the two were 4.4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it hasn't split yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say it'll be slightly higher on the regen side.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm really happy with that, and yeah, but not really noticing anything milk wise. Obviously we had the frothing in August, but that calmed down, and it was quite funny because usually we get frothing in the milk generally over like a week or two in September, but we didn't get that at all this year, which was quite weird because I was expecting it to hit again when the ryegrass clover did it, but yeah, it didn't do it at all.
Interesting. And so, because you were saying previously that the milk was frothing to the point that it was you had to shut the plant down or slow the plant down.
Yeah, so with the regen herd, what we would do is we would actually milk the conventional herd, which is our second herd, first, so that we could get a big chunk of the milking out of the way. And then with the regen herd, we would milk them second, and you'd just have to continuously pump it out because even with the froth buster and everything, the can just couldn't keep up. There was that much foam in it. And even when the tanker would come and pick up, you would actually look inside the vat and it would have bubbles like a milkshake. So yeah, it was really frothy.
When did it stop on the regen side?
It probably lasted 3 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
And we got a little bit in the conventional, but not much. But yeah, what we would normally do is we would just shut it down in between herds. So milk everything out, pump the milk out, shut the plant down, and then start it back up. And then that gave us kind of like a clean slate before we got into it. I did have someone in and they sped up the milk pump and things like that. So we got things to help it, but it was considerably noticeable that the regen herd was, the milk was really frothy.
Yeah, so hopefully when we get more info from the diet decoder that we've done comparing the diverse pasture to the ryegrass clover, we might have a bit more insight as to why that was happening. I know Rhys did a bit of research around the protein content, if that could have been impacting it, but it is something that we want to try to figure out what was causing that, so we can hopefully minimize it in coming seasons. I
don't think we'll be able to. I think it will just be part of it, if you know what I mean. Like I don't really know how you can, unless I don't really know.
Well, it is something to do with fiber in the diet or something like that. You could supplement or have a specific pasture with a specific blend of pasture species that help rectify that. But it's something we need to understand a bit better. Rhys, do you have any comments in the animal health space?
Well, I think at a macro level, there's certainly been an improvement last year on animal health performance, like across, and I think that's probably company wide, to be perfectly honest with you. But certainly on this farm, like down cows across both sides have been well down. Sow count's been up. I think that's probably a lot to do with the wetter weather. But there's been a reduction in body condition scores are better, and I think generally this year there's been more focus on animal health performance, and certainly really happy with that. And I think it's too early to draw any conclusions between any side, but I'm really impressed with the lower stocking rates. Like I think that's something that we've taken out of the initial 3 or 4 months of learnings, and we look to roll that and scale that across our whole businesses. That we just have to get our stocking rates down. Like the per cow performance on our regen sides going well with the lower stocking rates. So that leads to more complicated decisions around our genetic makeup of our herd and our weight profile, and there's a lot of other macro decisions that are going on. But I'm really impressed with the lower stocking rates. That's something that I think if we could master. It's harder farming with lower stocking rates because you've got the simplest way of farming is just having a lot of cows always being in a deficit situation and putting feed in. But we're kind of going the other way now, and you've got to make hard and complex decisions around the future. I guess with the high stocking rates, you're always farming in the past. Like I've got a problem that I caused 2 weeks ago. I just put feed in. Whereas when you got lower stocking rates, you're farming for the future. So you're always saying, well, what's the next 2 weeks going to do? Should I take feed out? So you've got to be a lot more confident in your decision making. So it's tougher, but I'm really seeing some of the rewards for it. So credit to the team for leading that. I'm really impressed with it.
Cool. Like the sickle, the cell count was a bit higher on the regen side than the conventional side. It's been like that most of the season, which I was a bit surprised to see, but it is.
I wouldn't. Like I just feel like it potentially could be a cow or duck, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be like
looking into it too.
Too
deeply.
What's trends over time, like with everything, like I think for us to really get some definitive data, we're going to have to continue to monitor this stuff for a long time. But
and I mean they could just be adjusting to the changes and that causing different reactions in the body. None of us are vets, so we'll move on.
we'll leave it to them.
We're not vets, but we're geniuses.
That's true. We have talked a bit about it already, but anything you want to mention about the pasture? So we're seeing less shoulder growth, but happier now with the growth. I know it's taking off on the regen side, saying it was 100 kilograms per day.
I seen that. It's definitely taken off. Even on the conventional side, like I am not keeping up at all. So like Rhys said, it's actually really hard when you don't have a high stocking rate and you're trying to eat feed. Currently my conventional girls are having to go back and tidy up. The beauty with the diverse is that we're not trying to tidy up, so you don't. But it's definitely both sides are definitely getting quite a bit of feed in them. And I think the funny thing is with that the plate meter, that that service that we use, it's always shows higher on the regen side. I don't know if it's because of the diversity in the pasture. When she goes over it, it reads different.
Right.
I always notice that, whereas the ryegrass potentially isn't so upright.
So do you feel you're feeling like the regen side is overestimated slightly?
Yeah, I do. Just because like, especially with like depth, like how much you've actually got in there. Yeah. And also like when you look at my wedge, all my top paddocks are always on the regen side.
Right. Yeah.
And I just noticed that through the whole time. So it'll be interesting to see if the whole season we're always like top heavy over there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as well.
Our intentions to have a higher cover, so they should be all at the top end of the wedge.
Yeah, I know, but we're conventionally grazing them, so there's no.
Not for the last 10 days, you haven't. Like the residuals are way high now.
Yeah.
But paddock 9, that they left a 2200 cover in there.
Yeah, I know, but she hasn't pasture she hasn't.
Yeah, no, I realise that, but certainly we're starting to like that. What you're saying is going to amplify.
Yeah, I know, but I just wonder if I haven't done any research into it, but I just wonder if when the plate meter goes over it, if it shows a different, if it's
definitely a possibility. And even, you know, like a blade of plantain or chicory is a lot thicker than a single blade of ryegrass, so that could impact things as well. Like it is calibrated to the ryegrass blend. Yeah. So that I think it's reasonable to assume it might not be 100% accurate on the diverse side. Yeah.
I think you know your paddocks anyway, so it just gives you a good estimate of where you're sitting. But you always know your paddocks and how they perform. So
So Rhys just touched on it, but you are kind of reaching these higher covers now around the 2100 is what you're leaving.
Yeah, so definitely leaving higher covers. We are still
not in the ryegrass paddock, so
no, I'm trying to hit 1500 in there.
No, I mean your ryegrass paddocks on your regen side, they're still getting that they still seem to drop them down a bit lower. Yeah.
I think that's because they got the fish, so they didn't have as much growth as what they could have.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. So this is on our first round, we essentially grazed everything on the regen side conventionally.
Yeah.
And then the second round, we have started off grazing conventionally. We still are grazing conventionally, but we're just leaving a higher cover. So I think based on the last 2 years, what we do is we graze the first 2 rounds conventionally, 12-hour breaks, and then on the third round we get into the trampling and things like that.
Cool. Any other comments around the pasture, Rhys?
No.
Yeah. Cool. So we can move on to discussing supplements, which again we've touched on. But Kiri, you want to elaborate on what you've been feeding out so far?
Yeah. So we've had to feed out a lot and buy in quite a bit of feed, as has everyone else. But pretty much just silage and grain.
Yeah. And I think
so they were sitting on average about 3 kilos of grain, and then once they got into their second rounds, they dropped to about 2.5.
Yeah.
And we're about to drop grain out of the regen side and only feed it to the
conventional side.
Majority of the regen herd will get no grain, but the ones under 4 condition score will get 3 kilos. Because we don't have the opportunity to break them out into their own mobs, so they need to be preferential fed.
Yeah.
And that's just so that we can kind of meet that 223 kilos of grain a cow, but the conventional herd will continue at 2 kilos a day for as long as they can. So it's
typically, do you feed grain all season, other seasons, or
normally through the
yeah? You try and as long as you have it.
Yeah.
So I think in the next week we'll be starting to drop that that grain out, or we might go for the first 3 weeks of mating with a kilo of grain into those breeding cows, and then phase it right out after that maybe. But we'll make it a call in the next month, so we'll give that update. But one of the challenges we do face is with the trial is you can't have a light herd and a heavy herd. So if you do have light cows, you really only tool you've got is preferential feeding them. So one other option we do have once we build our cover up is Kiri could run the cows to the shed, and the ProTrack could draft out all the light cows in the morning, and then they go out to a paddock, and then they just get brought back in with the cows the next morning. So they like say 30 of the lightest cows could be on once a day, and they just get brought to the herd every morning. But we're trying to keep things simple, but that would be our only other option.
Yeah. Okay.
Potentially we could look at 16 if it wasn't if at the moment it's the minority. If it was the majority, we could look at 16-hour milkings or 3 and 2 milkings or once a day. But at this stage, it's only a small amount of. I think it's 36 cows under that we need to focus on at the moment in that region herd.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
But we officially have no silage on farm. We've used everything. Yep. Which was always the intention. So that's not a surprise.
We did, one thing I will touch base on is we did feed out the cover crop silage that we made last season. So we cut 4 hectares of cover crop last season, April, March, at some stage. And just because we had excess of it. And it was, when we opened the stack, it was actually quite moist. I was thinking that they were gonna turn their nose up at it, but it smelled all right, and they actually ate it really well. So yeah, it was a big success. I think the only thing I'd potentially do better next time if we were going to go down that road is try and dry it out a bit more. And maybe put it in like a maize tube or something so that it's a bit more consistent. But yeah, it was better than what I thought, because when I lifted up the cover a little bit 2 months ago, I was thinking it was not going to be good.
And I took that into the lab last week, so yeah, we'll have the results for that silage on the website soon once I receive them. All right, so we can touch on irrigation. Got the first few laps in of the pivot recently.
I think we've only done 1 lap. And I'm pretty sure I was the only one in the area that did it. But it paid off. So yeah, literally done 1 lap of everything with like 10 mils, and then turned it off, and yeah, we've been getting a bit of rain here and there. And you might be able to touch more on the flow meters.
Yes, so we have put flow meters. The regen side is under 2 pivots, which both have flow meters on them, and then the conventional side is under a different pivot. So we will be tracking the differences in water use between the 2 sides throughout the season and see how they compare. Do you want to talk about your experience last season? And
so for the where we have had diverse species paddocks, and the pivot, I'm able to control where the pivot goes. Less water has gone on those pivots. So in pivot 4 covers 8, 9, 10, 11. And 8, 9 is diverse, and 10, 11 is conventional. And once I hit February, I actually didn't put any water on 8, 9. I just swiped over 10 and 11, just because it just didn't need it, especially with that cover crop. That cover crop, once it only needs like a month of a moisture here and there, and then after that, you pretty much, once it's established and it's yay high, you actually don't need to add water to it at all. So great if you've got like a VRI system, but if we have paddocks in between other paddocks, so I still had to irrigate the ryegrass, but yeah, it holds a lot of moisture, and I think that's why that silage was quite wet.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Rhys?
No.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so about covers it. Do we want to discuss anything more around the team and how they've been handling everything? You did touch on it.
They've been pretty good.
Yeah.
They've actually been really good, considering. And there's even been times where they're like, we've got this. So yeah, no, they've been really good and really understanding, and yeah, just getting their heads around the two herds now, and they pretty much have it all nailed. And it's pretty much color coded. Regen's pink, green is conventional, and that's what we use for everything. So as we make silage throughout the season, the bales will be green and pink. And yeah, it should make it easy. I guess mating will be a bit interesting this year, going from one extreme to the other. But yeah, ProTrack's definitely helped us. If we didn't have ProTrack in the cow shed, it would make it very hard. But yeah.
And anything to add to that, Rhys, before we finish up?
No, I haven't really. I haven't seen any of the. I've seen the good, bad, and ugly over the. Like it was certainly a game of two halves. August was like the first 2 weeks was pretty tough, and then certainly ironed out. But no, I think from what I'm seeing, everything's we've got to keep it simple, and I guess that sometimes we can, it's easy to complicate things because it is different. But the team's do well to keep it simple, and like one of the young fellas, Teddy, he's made like this absolutely state of the art. We had an old calf trailer that we picked off Trade Me for like $1,000. It's probably worth about 15 grand now. It's got all these boxes in it for the chickens, and like from my perspective, that gives me a lot of satisfaction seeing them putting that time and effort and their skill set. Like he's got all this plywood stuff. Like I couldn't even bloody dream it, let alone build the thing. And just that's really cool. That they have some tough times, but they really show the passion that they enjoy and showcasing their skills, which is really cool to offer the opportunity for people to showcase their skills, because at times we can get really robust in our thinking around this is the only way we can do things. So when I drive around the corner and see that chicken thing, every day it's expanding. Like I think it's going to take off soon. So there'll be chickens in Mars or something, because it's got everything you can think of. So that's made me quite proud, to be fair. And we've got the market garden going up, and Kiri's mum Liz, she's down there working on the weekends, and it's cool to see the hive of activity. Like we kind of that there's an extra person in the business now, and Kiri's got other new employees in the business that have come in through some of the innovations. So it's cool to see some of the reward coming through, but it certainly hasn't been without heartbreak. There's been plenty of tough times as well, but when things are good, it's certainly great.
Yeah.
I think it's been good. I think it's opened us up to be a bit more open-minded with other things that we can do. I guess grazing chickens behind cows is probably not what you would normally think of doing, but it just gave us more food for thought on where our food was coming from and what it was, and that's how the chicken trailer got into it, and then the market garden, and feeding the team. So I think as well as a trial farm, all the other stuff that's happening behind the scenes is going to be quite cool. But definitely think we've reached the top of trialing. Rhys, that's for you, Rhys.
Take note.
I can't do it anymore.
Well, we are doing a trial on how much of a trial we can trial. So we're doing a trial on top of a trial here.
I think I might need a pay rise.
Very good.
Cool. Well, we'll leave it at that then and touch back in about a month or so.
Yeah,
and
and we'll
do
see
it
how
again.
mating's going.
Yeah,
Cool.
see how the meeting's going. It's worth mentioning now that we have scheduled our first focus day. It's going to be on December 1st, and we will be publicizing more information about that shortly. Thanks, everyone. Bye,
Thank you.
Kiri and Rhys.